Hey, wrestling fans, welcome to another live stream 360 Wrestling Podcast. And I decided, I should say, earlier today that I was going to do a live stream. I was going to discuss a little bit of news and a few other things. But now, unfortunately, just earlier this evening or so, the news came out, the sad news about the passing of one of the greatest managers and commentators in the history of pro wrestling. Bobby the Brain Heenan has unfortunately passed away. It's not really surprising because he has had a lot of health issues for the last few years or so. So very unfortunate, and it is definitely a loss for pro wrestling. And I'm sure anyone who is a pro wrestling fan, even younger fans, can go back and watch the WWE Network. Definitely enjoyed Bobby Heenan and have great memories of him in the business. I would say most of the memories are from when he was in WWF, but of course it started. Actually, he did wrestle a little bit, but obviously he was more famous as a manager and then a color commentator and host of Primetime Wrestling with Gorilla Monsoon. And I mentioned younger fans and the WWE Network. If there's any young wrestling fans watching this stream right now, I definitely recommend going on the WWE Network and watching the episodes of Primetime Wrestling with him and Gorilla. They were great together on Primetime Wrestling, calling matches. And I really enjoyed their commentary on the 1992 Royal Rumble, which was won by Ric Flair when he entered as number 3. Heenan, throughout the whole match, was siding with Flair, and Monsoon was getting on to him for that. Would you stop? Like he used to say. And this worked great together. Gorilla doing the play-by-play, and Heenan, like I said, doing the color. They just got they just had chemistry. That's a better word for it. And one of my favorite memories of Bobby Heenan is, I'm sure a lot of people definitely remember this, WrestleMania 9 at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, when he was coming into the stadium or whatever they had set up. And he was on the camel backwards. And just other great moments. The Ultimate Warrior putting him in the weasel suit. Definitely another one of his famous nicknames, Weasel. And Heenan was just a great heel, either as a manager and a commentator. He was great. And I grew up watching him first WWF, as I mentioned, the primetime wrestling. And then when he went over to WCW, and I actually had a chance to meet him once in 2006. It was at a primetime wrestling show here in Belleville, Michigan at the Diamondback Saloon. He made a guest appearance and did an autograph signing for the VIP meet and greet before the show. And meet him, a legend in the business, somebody that I grew up watching and listening to while watching wrestling, just like Jim Ross, Gorilla Monsoon, as I mentioned, Tony Schiavone, and he'll definitely be missed in the wrestling world. Of course, WWE Hall of Famer, made a couple appearances in TNA actually at Turning Point 2005. Did a thing with the White Sox when AJ Przinsky and Dale Torborg show on the pay-per-view, I should say, and then they set up for that match. And so there was a kind of like a vignette at the time when Bobby Roode was interviewing for a manager at the time, and one of them that he interviewed was Bobby Heenan, along with Sherry Martel and Colonel Robert Parker, I believe. But in this year, 2017, he was actually scheduled to make an appearance here in Michigan October 7th. It was at the big XICW Kobo show. He was going to be at the convention signing autographs and things, maybe. But a little while back, maybe a few weeks or so ago, it was announced that he would not be able to make any appearances, unable to travel. It was his health wasn't good enough, and I talked about that on the live stream in the episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic with Blake Acumen. I know the stream here on YouTube had some technical difficulties, so it didn't really turn out very good. But 360 Wrestling Fanatic, we did the day after, mentioned that a little bit, I believe. But so, and I just want to say condolences to his family and friends, of course. And Bobby the Brain Heenan, he will be missed. Also, at this time now, I was going to talk about some shows I watched over the weekend. Not really going to do full recaps or anything, but just want to mention them real quick. Was first weekend of shows actually from and WAW in England. First, it was Friday night with Bellatrix kicking it off, and then Saturday was the two WAW shows at Norwich, which is ran by Paige's family, the Knights, and very good show. All three of them are very good in my opinion. And you can watch those shows on the Fight app. You can either order one of the shows separate for $9.99. Deal is for all three shows for $19.99. That's the best deal. Save some money that way. And if you've seen, I believe in the Facebook group, I think that was the only one, and maybe on the Twitter I might have posted it. you can use a special code to get $20 of credits on the Fight app to use to purchase pay-per-views on the app. It's a really great app, and there's also free shows as well from Hollywood, and Ring of Honor TV is on there as well. In case you can't get it on TV in your area, you can watch it on the Fight app. I use the Fight app regularly. It's great. That leads into what I'm going to mention next, was that I mentioned the last live stream. It's been a little bit since I did one on here, so I'm not even sure when the last one was. Or I think it was on the last episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. I think I mentioned that I was going to try to do a Q&A and answer some questions, or if could get any comments from any listeners or viewers, and got one question. I am going to answer one question here, but I'm going to wait for more of them to maybe do a whole stream of questions or comments. But for right now, got a question from Todd Smith from the No Gimmicks podcast, which I mentioned this on the live stream where I talked wrestling podcast a little while back. It's a really good podcast. They have some great interviews on their YouTube channel. I definitely suggest you check out the No Gimmicks podcast. Question was, I believe I should have looked at it before I came on, but I'm pretty sure it was, am I looking forward to the Ring of Honor World Championship match this Friday night? Minoru Suzuki and the American Nightmare Cody for Dishonor. I definitely am. I'm a big fan of Suzuki and big New Japan fan. I've been talking about that quite a bit on the podcast and the streams, that in my opinion, New Japan is the best wrestling promotion in the world right now. So definitely looking forward to Suzuki and Cody in the main event. And I'm sure it's going to be a great match and a great show. And also, one match I'm also definitely looking forward to is the Young Bucks versus the Motor City Machine Guns. And could actually steal the show right there. That's this Friday night. That's before Dishonor. Once again on the Fight app. Definitely recommend you check out. If you can't, for some reason, a lot of people now getting rid of the cable, getting rid of the satellite. On the Fight app, you can, like I do, use my Roku or Apple TV, or I think smart TVs, other stuff like that. I'm not sure about video game systems. You might be able to use it with that. Or if you even watch on your phone or tablet, laptop, just about anything you can watch it on. That's Ring of Honor this Friday night at 9 p.m., I believe. And I do plan on doing a podcast about that, a recap of it coming up. Maybe, I don't know if I'll do it Saturday night after this show, or Friday night, excuse me, but maybe Saturday morning. Or I head to the Taylortown Trade Center for Clash 150, which is another huge event coming up Saturday, the 150th episode of Clash Wrestling. And believe me, you want to be there because you know the other Lance Brock who hosts Clash Wrestling 360, the podcast that is all about the collective league of adrenaline, strength, and honor. You know he's going to be there. There'll be some interviews, let's hope, with Caveman Elk, his beard brother. He's usually podcast. Maserati Rick. Maybe we'll have a reunion of Elroy and Astro. And if you've heard when Maserati Rick has been on Clash Wrestling 360, you know what I'm talking about there. And the Clash Championship will be on the line. Justin Maine taking on the number one contender, James Alexander. Championships will be on the line in a rematch from Age of Elite, or Grappleganza, excuse me. Sorry about that. The rematch, the titles are on the line. The new champions, the Lost Boys, Justin Pilgrim and Devin Shaw, defending against the former tag team champions, the H3RD, Dr. Wrecking Ball, Randall Casey, and Jackson Vaughn. One you do not want to miss. And a return to Clash Wrestling. I'm sure most people have recently saw him make his return to GFW Impact Wrestling. He is a former TNA X Division champion. He was the last ever PTW heavyweight champion here in Belleville, Michigan. As I mentioned that promotion a little bit ago. And he is a former Clash heavyweight champion. None other than Maple Leaf Muscle, Petey Williams, returning to Clash Wrestling. That is hoping to see. And it is happening this Saturday, September 23rd, Clash 150 at the Taylortown Trade Center. Oh, maybe that other Lance Brock will do an episode of Clash Wrestling 360 this week to get ready for the huge event at Clash Wrestling 360 on Facebook. And also, 1 week from tonight, WWE presenting No Mercy as I watch last year's No Mercy on the WWE Network right now. And John Cena and Dean Ambrose, No Mercy. It will be John Cena taking on Roman Reigns. And for the Universal Championship, Brock Lesnar defending against the monster among men, Braun Strowman, which should be an interesting match to see. I really don't think that title on Strowman right now, but you never know. I could be wrong. And if you have predictions, or Death Before Dishonor, you can leave them right here. Excuse me about that. I blinked a little bit. Right here in the comments, predictions, or even Clash 150 if you have predictions, or Hell in a Cell, which is here in Detroit, 8th, at the new Little Caesars Arena. Now we know it will be Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon on the show. Also, WWE Championship match, Jinder Mahal defending against Shinsuke Nakamura. Sounds like so far a pretty good show. And also, I meant to do a podcast earlier this week to talk about it, but I didn't get around to it. The Mae Young Classic, Carly Sane getting the win, who was my pick to win it. and was happy to see her go over. Was definitely, I enjoyed the Mae Young Classic. I don't know if I would say it was quite as good as the Cruiserweight Classic was last summer, but I did enjoy it and had some good matches. I thought some of them were cut a little short, but definitely not bad at all. They were good, decent matches, though. For this live stream from 360 Wrestling Podcast, like I said, stay tuned for another episode this week of Clash Wrestling 360 as we count down the Clash 150 this Saturday. And use Friday night Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor on the Fight app, and the Sunday 1 week from tonight, WWE No Mercy on the WWE Network, and Facebook. You can like 360 Wrestling Podcast and Clash Wrestling 360 on Twitter at 360 Wrestling Pod, the Instagram 360 Wrestling Podcast, the email. Remember, you can still get your questions in for the Q&A coming up. I'm not sure when it's going to be, but hopefully soon. Or any comments or suggestions of any kind. I'll discuss them on that Q&A episode. And once again, the email 360 Wrestling Podcast at gmail.com is in the description. And also, if you want to help out and make the 360 Wrestling Podcast even better, you can. Any help I get, I'll be doing blogs and exclusive extra podcasts that are exclusive for the Patreon supporters. Be nice and help out. And also, the Three Wise Men podcast, which is great. My buddy Tyler Elkins, fantasy filmmaking, I believe they call it. And they got a Kickstarter actually to make a comic book, Motor City Mo. And I've tweeted the links to the Kickstarter. You can follow them on Twitter and you can like them on Facebook to find more info on the Kickstarter, how you can help. I definitely recommend helping them out. The Kickstarter, donate, and really good podcast. Even though it's not a wrestling podcast, but still a good podcast. But speaking of wrestling podcasts, as I mentioned earlier, Todd Smith, the No Gimmicks podcast, check that out. It's really good. I enjoy it. And another one I enjoy, the Raw Dogs podcast. Check that out. And stay tuned here on YouTube. The best way to find out if I'm going to go live or post a video of any kind is to subscribe and click that notification bell. You'll be the first to know. But that's it for this stream. I hope to be back soon. 360 Wrestling Fanatic, Clash Wrestling 360. But until then, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.